Hey everybody, this is Grace. In this video, I'm going to talk about basically about when son-in-law, comes off as very wrong, very bad to the his wife's aunt or aunt, depending on how you pronounce it. And she's very suspicious of something about this son-in-law, but the mother of his wife, she's not. And these are very close family, and it can cause a little problem between them. Okay, sorry, I'm getting in this out slow, but yeah, and something happens that's very odd. Now, I'm going to give an example of this, and it's like a rough draft of series I'm writing about dysfunctional families, and it can be dysfunctional family, narcissistic people, psychopaths, on and on. And it's a big series. It's a bunch of little series within a big one, and this one is going to involve the two sisters. They're 59 years old at the time it started, and one is named Margaret and the other is Pearl. Now they are actually triplets. The other one is their brother. His name is Victor. Okay, and they all live in a big house. They are the wealthiest family. Okay, the wealthiest family. And this is a hypothetical, fictional kind of example. They're of a wealthy family in a county called Victorson, Texas. In Texas, hypothetical, of course. I mean fictional, but of course Texas is real. Okay, but they are the wealthiest family. They are from the descendants, Victor and Mary. They were the ones that originally started up the whole county by basically moving in. They were very wealthy, and they wanted their children to settle in an area in Texas. They bought, and they did. That's what happened. That was way back, generations, and it developed, and it became very wealthy. The county and several towns and all. Okay, got that out. Now, like I said, Margaret and Pearl, they're at the time of this, they're 59 years old, and it's the beginning of 2020. And their brother, Victor, he had been not missing, but 10 years prior, they all had lived in this big mansion. And he had one day just left a note. Well, it was kind of like a long letter, and said that he was going to go travel the world, something he always wanted to do. And they knew their brother wanted to do that, but to just suddenly go was surprising to them. And he even wrote in the letter that he knew if he talked it over with them, he'd continue to stay, and he really wanted to go and do this. And that, not to try to find him who was going to be under an assumed name. And that's what he did. And he took a big chunk of money out of his bank, but he had been doing that, here and there. But at this point, he just took a big chunk of money out of his bank account. And, but they were not going to be allowed to have access to his financial information as it is. So, but he really wanted to do this, and he didn't want to contact them. He hated that thought because, like I said, they were triplets. They were really close, but that he felt that that's what he needed to do, and that he would be back. In the letter he wrote that he would be back for their 60th for his 60th birthday. That's what he wrote, for his 60th birthday. Now, out of all the things he wrote, they knew he was like a financial genius, and many of them were. But so they didn't concern themselves about how much money he took. He didn't take all of it. They figured, he knew how much he was going to need for where he was going and all that. But what bothered them was that he said his 60th birthday, with them being triplets. That just seemed very suspicious. And anyway, they just felt something was very odd about it all around. Of course, if you have a sibling that suddenly just decides to leave, and for 10 years, 11 years, however long, something could be suspicious. So they of course called investigators, and being so wealthy, during the 10 years he's been gone, so they called the investigators, one after another. Nobody, they couldn't find anything. Like he had said, he was going to be under an assumed name, and so that they couldn't find anything about that. Okay, maybe I'll get this out better. Anyway, so the point where I'm getting to with this is that, I think many of us, if you've had, daughters-in-law or sons-in-law, sometimes how you just don't trust them. Well, anyway, in this one, when Victor, their twin brother, Margaret and Pearl's twin brother, their brother, triplets, they were triplets, left, not long after that, Pearl's daughter, Margaret didn't have any children, but Pearl had one daughter, and she also lived in the mansion, and her daughter had gotten married to a man that, he lived in the bad part of the county. That's where he had lived in, and his name is Warren, and her daughter's name is Nikki. Now Warren, he's like a bully kind of guy, and that's how Margaret saw him. But Pearl just didn't seem to, want to believe it. Maybe that her only daughter, her only child, married such a man. She could have been in denial, or he could have been, really kissing up and playing the role. But Margaret saw the truth to him, and she was more of the type that sensed things. She is the type to sense things in other people. She was more suspicious. Anyway, when Pearl's daughter had married, Warren, they stayed living in the house. But after a short while, they had decided, they started talking about maybe they'd move or not. But anyway, that they didn't right away. But they left. They moved out just like their brother, like Margaret and Pearl's brother Victor did, just suddenly. Nikki and Warren just suddenly left, and left a note saying that they were moving to the big city, and they knew that they would talk them out of it, just like Warren had done, so that they wanted a clean break without so much, going on. So they moved to the big city. Well, once they, now Margaret's suspicion about them, Margaret never liked Warren. She felt more like Warren had married, it's kind of like cliche, Warren had married Nikki for her money, and that he was from, this really bad part of town, in the county, and he really felt like he wanted to get back what he deserved. Now his parents, they were part of this other group, this big group in the county that were back, like 40 or so years ago. They were computer geeks, and geek was a dirty four-letter word back then. And they became very wealthy. They helped one another build businesses and so on and so forth. And they became very wealthy. Well, some of them weren't so good, weren't so nice. And basically they got kicked out of it because they wanted to control it. They wanted to own it. They wanted to run it. They wanted all the money to come to them, all the power, all the everything. They got kicked out. Well, the elders of the county basically run the county. They kicked them out of the county completely. Now, this was kind of like a pattern since the original settlers back in Victor and Mary's time, that they would kick them out, kind of a little bit after that as more towns started to grow and come up. Well, they had an area they called the Outlaws, and that's where they put everybody that was in the that had lived in the county. Well, this became their kind of like just how it went, and that's what happened to them, the Outlaws. Well, Warren's parents were some of the outcasts. When they became outcasts, when they were kicked out of the group of geeks, basically, and they were kicked out of the county by the elders, out of the rest of the county into that, and many of them moved there to the Outlaws, the town called the Outlaws. Okay, and well, Warren seemed like that was just wrong, and he wanted his rightful inheritance, which was inside the rest of the county, which was a place there. Okay, so anyway, that's how Margaret saw it. Now, she didn't have a whole lot of information, but she knew she just didn't trust the guy, and from a little bit she picked up here and there about him. That's all she could think of, was that he married, her niece for her money, and that she lived in, and she was a descendant of, and had all this inheritance from the wealthiest in the whole county. So, and she could tell that Warren had this, kind of attitude about himself that he was superior to all others. And she picked up on all these things, his narcissistic kind of behavior. Some of it she felt like hinged on, kind of a little bit of psychopathic. And I think the Dark Triad. So, but the others didn't see it. Nikki didn't seem to see it. Nikki, and neither did her mother, Pearl, Margaret's sister. And anyway, it was, like I was saying, it was only months after Warren left, not Warren, but Victor left, that they left, Nikki and Warren. And like I said, to move to the big city. Well, after they left and everything, and got settled, well, Pearl, was trying to reach her daughter, couldn't reach her. Finally, her daughter called her, and they, after months, said that they had been busy settling down, and Warren wanted to work, even though Nikki's pretty wealthy, and that he's got a job, and all this kind of thing. He works some computer tech, not tech, but IT, same thing, but similar. And so that they didn't contact for that time because Warren was too busy and so forth. And they just didn't want any interruption right away. Well, okay, that's a really bad thing to do to your parent or parents, and so they had done the same thing of sending out an investigator and stuff. Couldn't find them either. Okay, during this time when they Pearl couldn't get a hold of her daughter, she sent out investigators. They couldn't find anything either. So anyway, Nikki told Pearl that she would contact her mom. She'd call her because Warren was really under stress, and she'd come up with all those kinds of lies, that really hint at a woman who's being, in this case, a young woman who's being abused and controlled. Abuse is not just physical, but she was being controlled. She was being isolated by her husband, and it was all signs pointing to that. And Pearl knew it, and she wanted to keep her daughter. Nikki told her, she said, if you try to, I'm going to have to stop calling you. I'm going to have to stop contacting. He needs to be, no stress. And she came up with all kinds of excuses for him and his behavior. And basically Pearl didn't know, what else to do. She just let her contact her, and go on from there. Well, Margaret didn't like that. She was like, you know. So Margaret kept personally hiring investigators and to try to find something out, but she couldn't. Okay, I need to add a little. I'm going to add a little bit more to this. Now, Margaret is is Nikki's aunt. Okay, and she's the one who sees Warren actually do things that, makes her question him, his whole, person. And, things like actually seeing him kick a dog. Okay, that the dog was, happy. And he just said the dog was threatening him. So he kicked it. And in front of Margaret. Okay, and, things like this that just show that he had a really bad personality all around. At the time, they really, neither Margaret didn't know what to do about it. Pearl, like I said, was in kind of denial, and Nikki was really, she was just, what appeared is that she was also in a form of denial. That he, like I said, maybe he was playing it his best face at the time. His mask hadn't slipped yet around them. Okay, but Margaret, yes, she saw it. So, anyway, I just want to get the first part of this out. This is the first episode. And remember, this is rough draft. I'm going to be doing rough draft highlights. Like you're talking into a old-fashioned tape recorder, but I'm using my cell phone. And this helps me to organize these stories, part of this series, and develop the characters. Some things change, some don't. It just depends on if it doesn't fit in right. But all of this is copyrighted to me, and just put that out there. Some of them go back years. I've written, made videos on, published, videos and all that. So, but some things, little things change. Like I've gotten the numbers wrong before. Like I would, instead of saying 2 months, I said 2 years. These kinds of things happen. But overall, their ages might change. Correct the age by a couple years or something. But overall, the stories stay the same overall. So, anyway, I think I'll wrap this one up. But I'm going to do more on dysfunctional families, dysfunctional in-laws. In-laws are not just the parents, okay, and so on and so forth. Anyway, I'm wrapping this up because it's getting hot. It was 91 when I got out here. It's 90 now. Yeah, October 3rd. I'll talk to you on the video. Bye.